Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's activity. My name is Annie, and we are doing craters today. So what I'm going to do is I am going to first go over all of the materials that we need. And then to give yourself some time to gather the materials, Emily, who is our moderator, is going to be going over how to use Zoom. So first, the materials that you're going to need. I'm going to tilt my screen down so you can see what I have. So I have a tray full of sand. Flour works as well. So I have about, I would say an inch or so in my container. If you want to use a pie tin or a big Tupperware or a bin, that would work really, really well. So I'm going to say get some flour or sand and have an inch or so about that much in a bin. Something else I have are different colored items to drop in my or different sized items to drop in my substrate. I've got some very large marbles. I have some very small marbles. I've got some rocks, but you could drop anything in there. You can drop toys. You can drop something really light or really heavy. If you're using flour, you could try dropping chocolate chips and see what that's like. So you'll need some substrate, some materials to drop, and then I'm going to be using iron filings, but if you're using flour, cocoa powder works really well, and that's just to help us see what's going on top, what's going on up here. So items you'll need are a container, some sort of substrate, and items to drop. So while you're getting those ready, Emily is going to go over how to use Zoom.
Awesome, thanks Annie. Hi everyone, I'm Emily. I recognize a lot of you, so I'm gonna try to go through this sort of quickly, but we all wanna be on the same page about how best to interact via Zoom. At the bottom of your screen, you'll notice a number of icons that you can click on. Probably the most important one of those to be aware of is the mute and unmute button. So on the far left facing your screen, there's a little microphone. It says mute. Right now, all of you are muted. We're gonna practice unmuting ourselves. So on the count of 3, I would like you all to click on that microphone, say good morning, science friends, and then mute yourself again. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, unmute. Good morning, science friends. Lovely, so great to see you all. Go ahead and mute yourself again. It's really useful if you're not speaking to have your audio on mute so that we don't hear all the other exciting things that are happening in your house. My dog is hanging out with me. He's probably gonna bark at some point, so I'll try to mute myself so that we don't get too much noise interference. Sound good? Awesome. We will be recording this session. We won't be recording your faces, just Annie's beautiful self. So if you want to share your video with us, we'd love to see you. If you're not already sharing your video, but you have a camera on your device, you can do that by clicking the camera icon next to that microphone. Also, on the bottom of your screen, you'll see the chat box. If you ever have a question, but you don't feel like unmuting yourself and asking it out loud, you can go ahead and write it in that chat box or type it or whatever you're gonna do. Okay, Peter from the Science Center, one of our other educators, has just introduced himself. Feel free to introduce yourself, tell us your name and where you're tuning in from today. I know not everyone is here with us in Ithaca, and we love to see where everybody's coming from. Finally, if you want to make sure that Annie is the big image on your screen, you're gonna find her little square and click on the 3 dots in the top corner of her image, and then select pin video. That will make sure that you can see what she's doing nice and large on your screen. If you have any questions about how to use Zoom throughout, feel free to write those in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask. But more importantly, make sure to unmute yourself and ask questions of Annie and share all your observations as we do this activity together. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna turn it over to Annie. Make sure to pin her video. All right.
All right, everyone, I'm gonna speak for a second, just so if you need to pin my video, I'm wearing a bright green t-shirt, so I'm pretty easy to find. So if you haven't pinned me already, now's the time to do it. And I'm gonna tilt my screen down again so we can see what I am working with. So here we are, we can see my substrate. And I'm using sand and I've made it really flat. So we wanna start with our sand or our flour looking pretty flat. And a good way to do that is to shake your sand, shake your container really gently, or you can tap on the sides and that will help. So we want it to start really, really flat because what we are doing today is we are making craters. Does anyone know what a crater is? Oh no. Am I having some internet connectivity issues? Can everyone hear me?
You're good now, Annie.
All right, excellent, thank you. All right, so a crater is a giant hole made by something dropping down from on it. So can we think of a place where there might be a crater? So some places there are craters, yeah, on the moon. Thank you, Brendan. There are a ton of craters on the moon. So when you look
on the Earth.
On the Earth as well, yeah. So when we think of craters, we think of something really, really big, like an asteroid dropping onto something else really big, like the Earth or the moon. So this is something we see all the time on planets, and sometimes we can even see craters on the moon from where we're standing. So if anyone gets a chance to go outside and look at the moon tonight, it's still pretty full and you might be able to see some dark spots, and those are craters. So we're gonna work on making—
Annie, whoever is on Keisha's iPad had something to say.
Oh, Keisha, why don't you unmute yourself?
One of the places you can find a crater is on the volcano.
Yeah, so volcanoes, at the top of a volcano, it's called a caldera, and that's actually, instead of being made from something dropping down, that's from something blowing off. So it is similar and it looks very much the same. It's just a different way of making a giant hole. So we're gonna make our own craters today. If you have something dark to put on top, maybe it's cocoa powder, maybe it's iron filings, now is the time to very gently sprinkle it on top. I have a spoon handy and I'm gonna use that. So I've got my flat substrate and now I'm gonna sprinkle something on top, and this is just gonna help us be able to see what is going on. It creates some shadows. In addition, it might show that maybe we've got some loose dirt on top of our earth that we're creating, and the sand might be some other kind of dirt under it. So I want you to pick up one of your materials that you have to drop. I'm doing a very big marble, and I want you to hold it above. Let's see if I can, there we go. I want you to hold it above your substrate. You can do it high or you can do it kind of low. It's your choice. And then once you're ready, you're gonna drop it. So I'm gonna count to 3 and then drop mine. So 1, 2, 3, drop. And take a look around your item that you dropped. I'm looking around my marble. What do you see? So I'm gonna very gently pick my marble up so I can examine it closer. And I've made quite a decent sized crater. So what I can
iPad, what do you guys see? We have some things to share. So Kaysen and Camden, I'm unmuting you. Do you want to share what y'all are looking at?
Yes. I see like a giant hole with I'm using cocoa powder and flour, and I see a giant hole with white, like with a lot of white, and then there's like a separate part that
pretty bad one.
that a lot of cocoa powder in it, and then all the white stayed in the hole.
Oh, interesting. Is it similar to my crater right here? Where I've got, yeah, pretty similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else has something to share? Let's see. Keisha's iPad, I see you have something. If you'd like to unmute yourself and share. Or do you not have something to say?
You have something to say?
Oh.
Allegra, did you want to share something?
Yeah, so I dropped the Lego and then first it made like this tiny print, but then it like slid over and made a bigger print.
Oh, so it moved around a little bit and made a bigger crater?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes there are aftershocks in the earth and that will help jostle everything and move that crater around. What else do we have to share?
Matthew, go ahead. Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
I used an Oreo cookie and it made it flat.
Oh, that's really interesting. So some people use round items like my marble, and if you use a differently shaped item, it might make a differently shaped crater. That is really interesting. Did you have a deep crater or a wide crater?
Oops, sorry, Matthew, can you repeat that?
A wide.
A wide crater. So I tried mine with a marble, and I've got some space to drop some other stuff. Instead of doing a big marble, I'm gonna try something a little different shaped. So if you have another material to drop, this is a great other time to drop something else. I am dropping a big rock. And so my big rock is shaped very differently than my marble. It's got a lot of flat sides and edges, and it's heavier. So I'm gonna see what this one does. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and drop my rock. And I'm gonna very carefully pick it up. And now actually we can compare the two craters made. So Matthew, would you like to compare something?
That I dropped a nickel in and it sunk.
It sunk. Whoa. Was you're using flour, Matthew?
Uh-huh.
Wow. Was your nickel very heavy in the flour compared to the flour?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sometimes materials like asteroid are made of iron, which is really, really heavy. And if it gets dropped in something very, very soft, like sand, it might sink all the way through and really, really burrow down. Did anyone else notice something when they dropped their different material? Sophie, do you have something?
When I dropped my marble in, it went in deeper than my other things that I did.
Oh, was your marble heavier?
Yeah.
There's like in here.
Yeah, your marble might be heavier. Keisha, do you have something to share?
When we dropped our chocolate chips, it did nothing.
Oh, so instead of dropping something heavy, you dropped something lighter, and your substrate, your flour, was able to support that and actually catch it pretty nicely.
Jason and Camden, you guys have unmuted yourself. Do you have something to add?
Yeah. I dropped a coin in. And it was like a giant explosion. And then when the giant explosion occurred, it made 2 holes and 1 giant hole.
Wow, did anyone else have a giant explosion that was made just by dropping one object?
I know Allegra had something to add.
Onion.
Ethan, you dropped an onion in? Wow, did it make a huge explosion?
No.
Is your kitchen a mess now?
Yes.
Cool.
I dropped like this like weird shaped thing. And it landed like upright and then it like fell and like made like a little like tiny tower.
Oh, so your substrate is changing depending on how things drop. Was anyone able to make almost like a cliff because the thing they dropped was so big? Let's see, I am going to now, so continue to keep dropping things, and I'm gonna continue to keep dropping things. Instead of dropping things one at a time, now I'm gonna take a whole handful of marbles. So I've got 3 marbles, and I'm gonna drop them all at once, so I'm gonna see what happens. First, I'm gonna flatten out my substrate a little bit by tapping on the side and shaking mine a little bit so I can see what's going on better. And I've got my 3 marbles, so I'm dropping 3 things at the same time. I'm gonna drop them. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Wow! So I don't know if you caught all that. I dropped mine in the middle, but my marbles spread out. So I ended up having 1 here, 1 here, and 1 rolled all the way over here. So I'm gonna very carefully take my marbles out so I can look at the craters. Let's see. So this crater here, let's see, it didn't really make a dent. It just had a very soft landing. So I must have some softer sand over here. This crater made a pretty large explosion. And this crater is really small, and it's just where my marble came to rest. They're all very different, even though I all dropped the same thing. Did anyone drop a bunch of things at once?
Allegra? Yeah, you're muted. There you go.
I didn't have my hand raised.
Oh, sorry.
Jason and Camden, do you have something to say?
Yeah. When I dropped all my marbles in, the flowers exploded everywhere.
Wow.
And mine exploded.
Yours exploded? Yeah, mine didn't do that at all. I'm very curious as to why that didn't happen. So I don't really know. Sometimes when we drop a lot of things, all the substrate, it almost splashes out, like throwing a bunch of rocks in the water.
Let's think about the different substrates that people are using. Who's using flour? Can raise your hand. Okay, I know that Annie is actually using sand. If you think about flour and sand, one of those substrates is a little bit heavier with larger grains. That would be sand. And one of them is much finer, it's dustier, flour. So that might be why we're getting some different results and different sizes of explosion here.
Yes, thank you, Emily. So one of these, the sand might be bigger rocks that we find on Earth. So it might be densely packed rock that we find on Earth, whereas the flour might be more like thinner rock that we find on Earth, or more dustier rock that we find on Earth. So
yeah, you guys are getting a lunar dust explosion.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to keep dropping your materials and keep making your observations. So what do you see? I'm going to try dropping. I've dropped some oddly shaped materials. Dropped a bunch at once, and now I'm going to drop mine from different heights. So I've got 2 marbles of the same size. I'm going to drop one from really low and one from really, really high, and I'm going to compare what those look like. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, drop. And I'm going to very carefully pick them up, and we can compare what that looks like. So here I'm pointing to the crater that was made from dropping it really low, and the crater that was made from dropping it really high. Big difference.
This time?
What?
Allegra is raising her hand, I think.
Oh, Allegra. Do you have a comparison to make?
Yeah, I dropped one from a different height than the other, and the one on below of it actually made a crater, But the one that I dropped on the higher one, it was more like it just stopped and really didn't go down into the earth.
Oh, that's interesting. So the one you dropped lower made a very distinct sort of crater shape, and the one you dropped from really high didn't really sink at all. That is an interesting comparison. Does anyone else have a comparison between their two craters they would like to make? Oh, Keisha, do you have something you'd like to compare?
We dropped a marble and a crayon in, and the crayon kind of went down a lot lower, and then the marble didn't really go in a lot.
Oh, so different shaped items. So I'm guessing, did the crayon go in? Did it go pointy end first? Ah, so a crayon has a different weight distribution than a marble. So it might slip and it might go in deeper because it's shaped differently. That's a really interesting comparison. Carrie, did you have something to share?
I dropped a marble from really high and one from low, and the one that I got from really high went to the bottom of the thing.
Oh, the one you dropped from really, really high, it sank all the way to the bottom? Yeah, so sometimes all of that weight coming up from a higher spot will actually burrow down deeper, which is a really, really interesting thing to see. So it, just like when we drop rocks on Earth, do we make craters all the time if we just drop something from where we are? Usually not. We don't make a huge crater just from dropping a rock. However, meteor might come down, and that's coming from really, really high. It's coming from all the way up in outer space, and that's really high up, and that will fall and create a nice sized crater in Earth.
Hi, did you have something to say? Can you unmute yourself? Or here, I'll unmute you.
Interesting.
Yeah, look how.
Oh, I can't.
Look at
Matthew, don't get covered in flour here, pal.
I dropped the same nail, and when I dropped it from higher, it didn't make as much of the nail shape, but then when I dropped the nail from lower, it made more of a nail shape.
So what, Kai, what did you drop?
A nail.
A nail. So when you dropped it from lower, it made a better shape than when you dropped it from really high?
Yeah, it made it more look like a nail when I dropped it from lower.
So that really shows my comparison as well. So here, this one's hard to see, this crater. It is very much shaped like a ball, rather than this crater, which is just shaped like a big giant hole. So when we're dropping something from up high, it's falling at a faster rate and actually making a bigger explosion. So instead of your substrate just kind of catching it very gently, your substrate under it is coming up and exploding out the side. So you might have a much different shaped hole. And it might not be the shape you expected, like Kai said.
Matthew, did you have something to add? You can unmute yourself.
I dropped a pair of scissors in from really high, and it made a huge mess.
Wow. Sounds like Matthew's house was having some fun. I hope you're being careful with those scissors. I saw somebody dropping an exercise weight into some flour. That seems fun too.
Oh, I'm interested to know how that exercise weight ended up. So if you feel your crater, so a lot of you are working with flour, it might feel a different than the loose flour that you're playing with. So the loose flour might feel loose and very fine, but I want you to feel the craters that you have made. And can you feel that it's compacted? Does it feel like it's been pressed down?
Keisha, do you guys want to share something? Keisha's iPad.
When the weight dropped, it made 2 different craters.
Oh, can you show us the shape of the weight on your camera there?
Hold it up.
Yeah, so you had those 2 large parts at the edge. Is that where the craters were? That's cool.
All right.
Some differently shaped asteroids. Carrie, did you got Carrie's device? Do you guys want to say something?
I was dropping marbles and I packed the flower down really hard. And when I dropped the marble, it made less of a crater than when the flower was loose.
Oh, that is really interesting. So if you'd like to do an experiment like Carrie did, try packing down the flower on one side and leaving it loose on the other. And you can drop 2 of the same material and see what your results are. So Carrie said that she made it didn't make as big of a crater when it was compacted. Is that right, Carrie? Yeah, so if your material's pressed down really hard, the item you dropped is more likely to maybe bounce off or even sort of break your material. So it might not catch it as well, and it might shear off some pieces or break off some pieces of your compacted material. So I'm going to encourage everyone to keep experimenting. If you want to drop really big things, you can keep dropping big things. If you want to drop small things, you can keep dropping small things. Keep experimenting, keep playing with this, figure out how we can make craters here on Earth. And this is actually similar. This is actually exactly how craters are created on the moon, on Earth, on other planets, just by dropping things into something soft, which is really, really cool. If you'd like to do some more experiments with this, try getting a magnifying glass and looking closely at what you'd see. It's really fun to bring this out or get a light to be able to see what you're looking at. So I'm going to encourage everyone to keep experimenting, keep playing with this, try dropping really heavy things like maybe a weight. You can try dropping really light things like chocolate chips.
Your dad might get this sound kick testing every day.
Yep, you can keep doing this every day. It's really exciting.
And if you're interested in learning more about craters in our solar system, I've put a video link into the chat. This is a content video that goes along with this activity.
When this is over, we're gonna
produced by the National Informal STEM Education Network. So make sure to check that out. It's the Vimeo link. You can copy it and put it into your web browser to watch later.
All right, we've got a little time to share a little bit more. Keisha, I can see your hand is up. Keisha's iPad, if you'd like to share something really quick.
I put a ton of sand on one side and then none on the other side. So I dropped a 2-pounder weight on the one side that had a ton of sand, and it didn't get to the bottom because there was too much sand, and I was just wondering why it was heavy, but it didn't get to the bottom.
That's a really good question. So sometimes we have enough substrate like sand or flour that it will not, all that substrate will catch your material before it gets to the bottom. So even if I drop something really, really, really heavy here, my substrate will catch all of it before it reaches the bottom. So that's the same thing as you being able to catch something before it reaches the ground. Is there anything else people would like to share about this experiment that they've done? All right, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining us today. And we will be doing another experiment tomorrow. We are doing, oh, if I can load this.
pocket solar system.
Ah, yes, tomorrow we are doing the pocket solar system with Peter. So to make your pocket solar system, you are going to need tape. Tape, paper, and markers. So we will be able to do a really fun experiment with Peter tomorrow at 10:30. So, and you'll be able to make a solar system to fit right in your pocket or put up on your wall. So thank you everybody for coming. I hope you had a great time today, and you can continue playing with craters for the rest of the day or do that tomorrow, and then join us at 10:30 tomorrow to do pocket solar system. All right, everybody, bye.
Bye.